Folks, there's a man, the great old noggin, okay? And his name is one Charlie Kirk. Now, Charlie Kirk is a man of real gumption. You know, he's a guy who, he got out of college, got out of high school, refused to go to college, and built an entire career basically off of massive donations from incredibly rich organizations and people. Mostly billionaires, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And well, long story short, he has a vast propaganda network called Turning Point USA. He is, he is a racist. He is a terrible person. He is a fascist. He's a Christian nationalist. And his entire shtick these days is essentially leaning into the Christian nationalism, right? And one of the things that Charlie is famous for historically is debating college students, right? Charlie Kirk loves debating college students. You know, it's an exercise for him to be able to show how big and virile his manly brain is. You know, it allows him to establish his dominance over the intellectual elite of the planet. And he's just generally, that it's the one thing that keeps his mind off of his chronic face wasting disease. The disease that slowly shrinks your face in proportion to your head. It's a tragic condition that affects 1 out of every 8 billion people every year. And well, Charlie decided he would do this at Cambridge. Now, I don't know if you guys know this about Cambridge, but there are some relatively smart eggs there, okay? And I'm going to be completely and utterly upfront with you guys. I did watch this. And about 2 minutes in, I said, I should stop watching this and watch it with chat, right? And then I didn't because I was having too much fun with it. So I have already watched this entire thing. And I can tell you with utmost sincerity, I have no idea why Charlie Kirk uploaded this to his own YouTube channel. Okay? Because this is unironically one of the most legendary thrashings I've ever seen in my life. Like it's bad. He's basically just destroying himself for our education and entertainment, and it's honestly really cathartic. All right, and I think we can all use a little bit of that. And I'll be providing commentary as well, of course, but it goes beyond mere self-own Zara and Joy. Like he's going for the record book of self-own, biggest self-own of all time, kind of in the marketplace of ideas anyway. So let's participate in this kink, this public shaming kink that Charlie Kirk apparently has, and I think we'll all have a great time with it. So let's jump in. Charlie Kirk titled this video "Charlie versus 400 Cambridge students and a professor," and I just you fought 400 college students, Charlie. You fought 400 adults and lived to tell the tale. That's very impressive. Okay, let's see how that went for you, shall we? Also, now I'll save this for a deep reveal. If you guys are hooked and intrigued by the concept of this video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys actually help to make the show a lot better that way. And remember to share the show with your friends. I love it. And my editor tells me that when I tell you to do that, you guys watching the segment do it more, and that's pretty cool. So do those things, please. And with that, let's jump into this, because again, absolutely incredible. And I do have a few criticisms right off the bat before we even get into like actual content of this debate.
To
right?
be fair, Poo Poo Bennett uploads all of her L's.
That's true. But I also don't like watching her. And I just want to point out, like, Charlie, you're like a millionaire, right? Like, Charlie, you make millions of dollars. And I know, like, I'm like a relatively poor streamer. You know, I'm able to do this for a living. I'm able to like be okay, but like I'm not wealth money. Charlie Kirk is wealth money, you know? And I just have to point out, why the hell is he wearing goddamn sneakers? Charlie, you're at Cambridge. Why are you wearing an ill-fitting suit in sneakers? The sneakers don't even fit with the suit, Charlie. They don't even fit with the goddamn suit. Have some self-respect, man.
Do the students get sore backs from skull dragging that gigantic skull?
I don't know. Yeah, all I'm saying is badly dressed middle-aged man. Bad vibes.
Thank you. Can we settle down, please? We're going to move on to our questions. Our first question is from Zinaisha Zubair from Sydney, Sussex. Come up and ask a question. And remember, you have the right of response.
I have quite a simple question for you. Now, I know you've debated Dean Withers on Jubilee before. I was wondering why you now refuse to engage with further debate with him.
Wait, hold on. First of all, he's coming on my show this summer, and let me get this straight. I flew 5,000 miles across the world to have you ask why I'm not going to debate a left-wing YouTuber.
Can we just like really take a minute here to just like, he is so thrown off of his game by that question, and also just like so angry. And it's kind of like, you agreed to do a question and answer session, man. Like you kind of did. If they wanted to ask you whether you like peanut butter or jelly sandwiches, like you agreed to take the questions. He looks like he's ready to like rip her in half with his bare hands.
Well, I mean, he continuously tries to get your attention at your campus.
Again,
you just ignore him.
I've debated him twice in the last calendar year. He's coming on my show this summer. Let me be clear. I came to Cambridge to have you ask me that.
I mean, you talk about freedom. I'm just using my freedom of speech to ask you a simple question. You seem to be dodging it for some reason.
No, I've debated him twice in the last year, and he's coming on this summer for a long-form discussion. But is this what I can expect?
Yeah, he's making videos about you avoiding him on your campus.
Is this what I can expect? People asking me questions? How dare you? How dare you have the gall?
Campus debates.
Yeah,
right.
we're literally like 30 seconds in and he's already molding, seething, basically a hair's breadth away from crying, you know?
So let me tell you how this works. I do a campus event like at Texas A&M University. I rent it out. I'm there for 3 hours. He shows up demanding to come up to the mic immediately, cutting in line of other students. It's not Joe Biden's America anymore where you can just cut in line and get whatever you want.
What? Can we break this down? Because again, there are so many moments in this entire hour-long vid, okay? Where it's like, Joe Biden's America is done, sweetie. You can't just cut in line anymore. You're like, one, you're in the UK, okay? Number one, you're not in Joe Biden's America. You're not even in America, okay? Number two, you're literally the shill for the party that's entire existence is about cutting in line. Like saying, well, actually, you know, you're black, so you can't stand in line. Well, actually, you're a woman, you can't stand in line either. You know, actually, you're not a landowner, you can't stand in line either. Only white, male, cisgender heterosexuals that own land. Those are the only people who can be in line in the Republican America. But like, I find it so fascinating And number two, okay, or three, whatever number we're on. Like, is that what Joe Biden did? Like, I'm sorry, Joe Biden made it legal to cut in line. Like, I'm sorry, I must have missed like the executive order where Joe Biden dismantled the line police. Like I never knew about them at all. I regret only my lack of knowledge and curiosity about the line the line legionnaires. You weren't cutting in line for 4 years like the rest of us? No, I just thought the lines got exponentially longer. I guess I wasn't paying attention. Must have been all that phone and social media.
So therefore, I say, excuse me, Dean, we'll talk at another time. He makes this YouTube video as if I'm scared to debate him, even though I debated him twice in the last year. Does that sufficiently answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you for coming, Charlie.
Now, you'll notice something that just happened, right? There was a small cut. Like, we saw like the Charlie Kirk logo flash on screen to cover a cut. And it's just kind of like, I have to wonder, what did Charlie Kirk have cut out of this? Like what and why did he cut out of this? And it was at this point in my viewing that I went and I looked up what Cambridge uploaded themselves of this conversation. And folks, you'll never believe it. The Cambridge Union Debate forum uploaded a video that is a full 40 minutes longer. And I haven't watched it, of course. I haven't seen it, but I do wonder what all got cut. I wonder what little bits got cut here. So we'll check, and maybe there's nothing dishonest here. Maybe it's just an edit for time. That can happen. But yeah, very, very fascinating stuff. Let's we'll find out later.
My question to you, I'm a medical student, and so I'm going to throw out the big A word. I know you get asked about it a lot, but I want to hear from you what your opinion is on abortion.
Life begins at conception.
But about abortion specifically, why do you think abortion's wrong specifically?
Well, you agree murder is wrong?
I agree. Okay, so this is where we get to the question, right? Because what is it about murder you say is wrong? Like, why is murder wrong?
Well, because it's a human being, not just because it has consciousness or because it's of a certain age, because it's a human.
And what is it that gives human being this moral worth?
Not its consciousness necessarily.
I didn't say it's consciousness.
I know that. I can imagine it because it is a human being, because that has a soul.
And what is this soul? Where does this come from? This idea that it's...
Exactly. Again, the Greeks postulated that it is the entirety of your being. Okay, you guys can...
And in certain Japanese traditions, it's located in the butt. Like up the anus. That's... Fun fact, guys, completely unrelated. Did you know that in the hit video game Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, there's a monster that if it kills you will rip something out of your character's butt. And a lot of people were really confused by that, but that's actually based on like a mythological creature. Yes, the Kododama Travenoid that eats the souls of humans by, taking it out of their butts. Yeah, literally ripping you a new anus. And so, look, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a fancy Cambridge medical doctor, but I just think it's worth pointing out different historical traditions about where the soul might be, since Charlie wants to subscribe to the Greek idea of where the soul is. I think we should just compare that to where other societies typically thought the soul might be. So, the more you know. Da 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 da.
laugh. I mean, it's true. I mean, every civilization has had a different belief, but agreed upon ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West and what the birth certificate of my country articulates, is that every human being is more than just matter, it's more than just a clump of cells, but it also has an invisible element to you that will live beyond you.
Fine, so, I mean, can you say that comes from the Bible, or where else do you get that from?
Ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West. And again, the Declaration of Independence mentions God 4 times. The founders were explicitly believed not in a secular morality, but a divinely given one.
The founders did not like in order to arrive at this conclusion, Charlie has to torture like a series of terms that might, if you squint hard enough, unite these people. These people did not agree. The founding fathers did not agree religiously. Okay, like I think it was John Adams, or I think it was John Adams. No, Thomas Jefferson? No, I think Jefferson famously had his own version of the Bible where he stripped out literally every like mystical element of it and just left it with just left it with like the facts, right? And so the Jefferson Bible is like just one of many other examples. And it's just
No wonder I felt joy whenever my soul is filled. Crab emoji.
Hey, Alexa Crab, thank you for the $5 super chat.
At least this idea that there is a God and you are not him. And let me ask you, what is the first stage of human development?
So this is the thing.
If I recall correctly, the best label you could apply to a large portion, but not all of the founding fathers was deism. Okay, like they did not have explicitly Christian beliefs, and trying to frame them as Christian beliefs is like frankly ahistorical and vaguely heretical from my point of view.
Right, we can take it from the sperm being generated in the father and the oocyte being generated in the mother, right? They fuse at conception, sorry. The only thing that happens at conception is these 2 cells fuse.
Right? No, DNA is created. A zygote.
DNA is not created.
No, that's not true. The DNA coding at the zygote. Hold on, time out.
I'll let you finish.
Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Charlie,
hey,
does a zygote have a unique marker?
You have to let me speak. You have to
answer it, yes or no. Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Define a unique marker.
Meaning, can you differentiate the DNA coding between the mother and the zygote if you examine it under a deoxyribonucleic acid analysis? Can you?
Can I just point out, like, Charlie, you can tell that Charlie is pressed when he says the entire like name of DNA. Okay, no one who is under like no one who is not pressed says deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, he's doing that to try and be like, I'm intellectually strong and virile, and it's just like, no, you can just say DNA, a DNA test. Oh, okay, like a DNA test, Charlie. That's what one would call that.
Only purely because the addition comes from the father.
Oh,
Dino DNA.
So it is something different.
Charlie, DNA is not created. DNA is not created. You have, the father has his own genome. The mother...
Man, I do love when we're less than 5 minutes in and Charlie Kirk is having the birds and the bees explained to him. Like,
mother has her own genome. They fuse. This is why you have the same characteristics, similar ones to your mother, similar ones to your father. That's why you have similar characteristics to your siblings. DNA is not created, right? So when you ask me, where does a human being come from? I can say to you, it starts at conception, but all conception is these 2 cells joining, right? But these 2 cells were created, the mother cells were created long before, they were created when she was a fetus. So there's none of this DNA being produced, right? So we can't establish, the only thing that happens at conception is these two cells fuse. Now this idea that means that for some reason suddenly that moral worth comes in, but it wasn't there before when you had these 2 cells who had half the gene.
Okay, you know how like almost every time we talk about like the abortion issue, I bring up like every sperm is sacred, right? Part of the reason I do that is because of exactly what this guy is bringing up. Like this idea that like, oh, you suddenly like you combine these 2 things and like, oh, it has human worth now. It has Like it has a soul because you combine these two things? No, that doesn't make sense. Explain it. Like you have to like do more mental labor than that.
The DNA, but suddenly there's a
Correct.
flip of a
Yeah, something
switch.
magical happens at that.
It's not magic.
Something magic happens. A stork gets a letter from God and then flies a baby to your mama. Like, what are you doing, man?
Magical, Charlie. We know about this.
Well, hold on.
Charlie.
Time out. Hold on.
Like, I'm sorry if you have to be like, yeah, you know, science just is magic. It's an inexplicable process that science can't explain. And it's like, no, actually, it's very capable of explaining it.
Charlie, I promise you, I'm not trying to score points. I'm not trying to score points on you. This is genuine.
We call it the miracle of life for a reason. We've not been able to yet replicate human life development outside of the womb.
We call it the miracle of life because yes, it's something beautiful. The ability to
exactly
form a new
magical.
It's not. You say magical as in it's beautiful. It's an incredible thing that happens, of course. But it's not incredible in the sense we don't know what's going on. There's no.
It's like saying, you know, like you had a miraculous day. You know, you pulled off a miraculous feat. It doesn't necessarily mean magic happened. You know, like you can have just like a freak occurrence and it's not magic and it's perfectly explicable. You know, like a good example that maybe Charlie would understand, like, you know, it was a pretty big miracle that like Donald Trump, like it was miraculous. He turned his head at the precise moment and like a bullet didn't, you know, pummel it into goo. And it's just like, wow, that is pretty miraculous, but it's not because we don't understand like the factors at play. It's not because we're like, oh yeah, literal magic happened. It's just a series of events and coincidences and like, you know, flukes of, you know, nature. And it's not like inexplicable at any step of that. You know?
New DNA being coming out of nowhere.
Hold on, but time out. Isn't there a separate DNA though than the mother? Like
yes, from the father.
Okay, yes, but
This is where I was just like, God damn, this is good, and I'm gonna show it the chat. But I'm gonna watch the rest of it too.
Yes, but it's not the father's DNA either. A new coding is created.
Charlie,
you are a blend of the two. And so when did your life begin?
Okay, so
when did your life begin?
I mean, again, this comes from what you define as where life starts. You can say life starts at conception, but I'm telling you, I believe that's just an arbitrary point, right? That's just the moment these two cells fuse. Now, you say about this mother thing. So the way DNA is arranged in a cell is it's arranged in chromosomes. Chromosomes are paired up, so you have one from the mother, one from the...
artificial wombs are ready for testing? Really? I thought we were years away from that. Oh my God. Want to conduct human trials on supporting premature babies outside of their mother's bodies. Okay, so it's not like fully ready to like take a baby from like conception to like ready to be born. But I guess this would be a pretty important step. That is so freaky. That is so freaky. We are so guys, we are so fucking close to like making Hideo Kojima's entire life. Do you guys have any idea what that kind of technological breakthrough would do to that man? His ego would literally explode. He would just literally just be like, "Yep, my video games predict the future. I am God. Worship me. I will bring us to the second sun." And we'll just be like, "What does that even mean?" And he will be like, "Follow me," and then like walk off a cliff. But instead of falling, he'll just, you know, ascend to the stars. And not because of anything spiritual, but because like he's like somehow found a way to fold space and time using a lighter and, you know, a configuration of different spiritual cheese. Is that a placenta just like sitting in a breaker? Yes, it is.
The father, typically, in a healthy individual, right? Now, you can take those maternal chromosomes out and you can find that this is who the person's mother is. And you can do the same with the father. Now, the reason you are different to your mother and father is because some of those chromosomes express genes that are different from each other. And so those genes interact and that's what gives rise to you, right? There's no space for any kind of moral framework to come into that until you consider that a human.
Also, I should probably finish Death Stranding because I genuinely have no idea what was going on in that game.
Being is capable of consciousness and of suffering. But if you take that out of the equation, the fact that these two DNA, whatever they call molecules, right? These two DNA molecules are fusing, that does not suddenly flip a switch that attributes moral worth to that individual.
Like, honestly, like, if your only response to that is, no, it's magic, like, you're gonna look pretty goddamn stupid.
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to score points.
Right,
I'm trying to understand.
By what moral standard do you believe that?
I believe that if an individual is capable of suffering, then it's wrong. Now, can I explain my opinion on abortion, just so you can understand? I would agree, as many reasonable people would, that at 9 months, it's unreasonable to expect someone to get an abortion, right? Unless you have some extreme circumstances. But for an elective abortion seems a bit radical to me. But it also seems radical to say that a woman who has just, the cells have just fused, to deny her of an abortion also seems wrong to me. Because that zygote is not capable of suffering, as far as we know.
So by what moral standard? Is that just your opinion? Where did you get that moral standard from?
Because suffering is a bad thing. We all know suffering is a bad thing. That's an objective fact, right?
Hold on. So you do believe in objective morality?
I believe that suffering is an objectively negative. So
if you can't feel it, is it okay?
What do you mean if you can't?
You can't feel the pain. Is it okay to inflict the pain?
In the sense that if no one's suffering from it, if you have a scenario where nobody is suffering from something, then yes, of course. Something is only a moral question if it affects someone's well-being.
So let me just make sure I understand this correctly.
I mean, like, to an extent, yeah. I mean, I think something can be a moral question, perhaps, in the absence of that. But like, as a functional, like, on your feet definition, I have no qualms with that at all.
That if it doesn't affect their well-being, so dementia patients that don't know who they are or where they're from, can we execute dementia patients because they're confused about their well-being?
Can you imagine a scenario?
Or Alzheimer's patients.
Charlie,
Alzheimer's patients don't really know much about anything. Can we schedule them for execution because they can't technically suffer?
I'll respond. So can you imagine a scenario where we lived in a society where we killed people when they suffered from dementia, were incapable of suffering, and we killed them, right? It's not a scenario that involves an absence of suffering. There's still suffering involved. Imagine you grow up thinking, my dad could be killed at any moment because he's going to get dementia. Imagine living your life thinking, I could get dementia and suddenly I'd be killed by my state.
Imagine a world where you slaughter 1 million babies every year in America.
Charlie, it's not slaughter. That's the problem.
Hold on. If it's a forcible removal from the umbilical cord.
Hold on. If you are clipping your fingernails, that's a forcible removal of human tissue from the body. Hold on. If you scratch your hand, that's a forcible removal of living human cells from your body. You are killing life. With every movement you make, with every moment you exist through time, you are killing human life. This argument is, I find not particularly moving, again, and you guys all know where I stand on this issue, right? Like, my general position is just that even if you grant full personhood to, like, whatever version of a fetus you want to have, it still would not be right to force women to give birth. I do not, like, if you can't force men to, like, give up their kidneys, you can't force a corpse to give up its organs. You can't, that's just true in our society, right? I don't think there is any justification for forcing a woman to be pregnant. I think, like, if you're forcing someone to use that bodily autonomy, to say, like, even in this scenario, like, saving a life, you fully granted that's another human life. You can't force someone to use their autonomy that way. Like, it's just not, we wouldn't allow it for like a corpse to be used to keep someone alive. Well, we certainly shouldn't allow that for, a living woman to be used that way to keep someone alive. And again, that's just granting like Charlie Kirk's, life begins at conception argument right off the bat. And like, I'm glad to see like an attack on the very concept of life begins at conception, because it's always kind of been, as pointed out, arbitrary bullshit. Corpses do keep people alive. Yeah, people who donate their corpse organs. Like, if you are an organ donor on your driver's license, that means that if you die, they can take your organs and give them to someone else. If you are not an organ donor, they can't take your organs. At least here in the United States. Can't speak to other places on the planet, of course.
Of another human life. Again, we have clarity but not agreement. Biologically, you know that your entire coding began at conception. Your coding,
that's
your
what,
uniqueness.
That's what I'm denying. I disagree with that.
Okay, when those two cells fused together, to use your terminology,
yes,
that is where the process of
scientifically accepted terminology.
In the interest of time, can we bring this question to a close?
The process of human development objectively begins at that moment. Therefore, those human beings are...
I mean, that objectively, like, you can actually take it a step backward. Like, when did those component parts begin being developed? Like, whether it's the egg inside of like a uterus, which, those eggs were created like when they were like in utero, like, or you were talking about the sperm, like we're suddenly talking about like a very inconvenient part of Charlie's argument, which is why he and people who believe in this life begins at conception really want life to begin at conception, because if it doesn't, it provides so many different problems for them that it becomes an untenable idea.
Deserving of human rights. We keep going, or do you want to?
No, thank you. Yeah, you can finish.
The process of
welcome,
development begins from the moment the sperm is being generated in the father, the moment the eggs are being generated in the mother. To say that suddenly the moral worth switches on when they fuse doesn't make any sense. That's just a point you take.
It makes perfect sense, because that is...
No, it doesn't make sense. Why not pick the moment that one cell divides for the first time? Why not pick the moment when like the 1 millionth cell is created? Why not, like, it's perfectly arbitrary. You're just picking one moment in time,
That's when your journey as a human being, when the sperm and egg were separate, you were not yet a fused human being. You were not created uniquely.
DNA.
Yeah, but also, like, if you're gonna make that argument, Charlie, like, a fetus in utero is also not a fully created human being, is it? Like, it can't just like come out, walk around, say, "Hey guys, how's it going? Love being part of the union. I love my workers' rights." Squelch, 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 squelch. Because obviously it squelches. Like, that's not. It's not a fully grown person yet. It's just. This argument is bad. And people making it should feel bad because it's so bad.
DNA existed. Your DNA existed. I thought.
Well, no, the parts of your DNA existed. Your DNA did not exist. It's like saying that we have a full car just because we have all the.
Yeah, but also, like, Charlie, if you're going on like, well, it's when your DNA existed. DNA changes over time. The DNA you have as a newborn baby is going to be different from the DNA you have, 80 years later. It's going to be different later. Like, I think it's something like every 7 years, all the cells in your body are different. And as a result, like, there are different environmental factors. There are random mutations that happen that can like change parts of your genetic makeup. Like, it's not like. So does that mean like you're just a complete in Charlie's universe, like you just get a new soul every 7 years? That seems bizarre to me if that's his argument, right? I have a fetus in my union. Checkmate, atheist.
I squelch in solidarity with our hardworking union fetuses.
I like this bit a lot. Thank you for the $5 dono, Pluvius.
Parts, it was not yet put together until conception happens, and the
Literally begin engaging in the fetus version of the ship of Theseus. the fetus of Theseus. The ship of Theseus. I have to stop. We have to move on. I can't.
zygote was formed. Thank you. I think we have to get
Can we
the next
move on to the
question.
next
Thank you very
question,
much.
please? Thank you.
You know about Patriot Mobile and what they stand for. I've talked.
Boy, howdy, I don't know about Patriot Mobile. Please tell me more. I'm going to Google it real quick. Patriot Mobile. Tell me more. I want to know what's going on with whatever like scam is associated with this. Tell us more, Charlie.
To you about their commitment to family, faith, and freedom. But if you
That's right. It's the first Christians only mobile phone company. Before we send you a phone, you have to take a 20-part survey proving you've read every single book of the Bible. That's right, every book of the Bible. If you skipped one, we'll know, and we're going to come for you, motherfucker. In this life or the next.
The Ship of Fetuses sounds like a great name for a metal band.
It does.
made the switch yet, you'll get exceptional nationwide coverage on America's best networks without sacrificing your.
It's the best network because it's the only network that can plug into God.
The ship of fetuses. I think we need a llama with a hat to put that one together.
Thank you for the $5 dono, One-Eyed Heathen and Pluvius.
Values. Get unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, and even a backup line on your phone. Patriot can do it all. Switching is easy. Keep your number, your phone, or get a new one. Go to patriotmobile.com/Kirk25.
PatriotMobile.com.
My daddy was a miner, and I'm a miner's fetus. And I'll stick with the union until all the bosses are defeated. Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
My daddy was a miner, and I'm a miner's fetus, and I'll stick with the union till all the bosses fetus. Feeded. Damn it. I was trying to make it rhyme a little bit. Damn it. Oh, God. Thank you for the $10 dono, Paladin. I really appreciate it. I'm having too much fun with this. Fun fact, you know how this is being pitched as like a mobile phone company, but for patriots? They lease it from T-Mobile and AT&T. So literally it's just a rebranded T-Mobile / AT&T phone. Just in case you guys are wondering, like, how does this work? They literally just leech off of T-Mobile and AT&T to dupe, shit-eating conservatives into using money on it. So that's fun. Let's see. Can we anything else? Oh, it was apparently last year it had a data breach so severe that the hackers were able to get subscribers' full names, email addresses, home zip codes, and account numbers. And apparently that applied not just on like subscribers to the phone site, but also on the website itself. So the phone service and the website were both compromised. So yeah, I don't know. Just throwing that out there. Maybe don't go with that. Also, apparently they're making Republican super PACs to get various Republicans elected to school boards in Texas, and that's partly why school boards in Texas be wildin', because just this company is pouring their phone scam money into various school board races. That's a thing that's happening now.
Octomom, the original ship of fetuses.
Thank you for the $5 dono, Turtle Chew. Here we go. Back to this.
Or call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code KIRK25 for a free month of service.
So first of all, my first question, or my only question is, you've advocated and applauded the reducing and removing of public funding for universities on the grounds they promote ideological biases. Given that universities play a critical role in driving national innovation, research, and upward mobility,
I'm sailing away. Set an open course for the Virgin me. 'Cause I've got to be free. To face the gestation that's ahead of me.
Oh, Paladin, thank you for the $10 dono. I'm actually having a really good time tonight. I'm just feeling good. The minor fetus is gonna haunt this stream, isn't it?
especially through federally funded grants. How do you reconcile this position with the broader societal value that higher education institutes offer?
Well, they can, but in Harvard's case, for example, who's getting their funding pulled, they have a $50 billion endowment. Just so we are clear, in pounds, that would be like what, 42 billion, 45 billion? I mean, I'm trying to learn the conversion rate here. I mean, it's an extraordinary amount of money. They can either use their endowments to fund it, and if you have certain behavior and certain practices.
Okay, here's the thing that Charlie gets wrong. When we're talking about funding that's being cut from Harvard, we're talking about money that was paid to Harvard to cover research that the government wanted to be done. Like, this is payment for services rendered. It's not funding. It's literally what you were paying them to do. Like, you wanted the research from one of the most elite and prestigious universities with the best facilities on the planet, and you were giving them money to get that. Like, this isn't like funding for the day-to-day operation of the university. This is grants dedicated to research for particular ends useful to the government and society at large. Like, that's not again, oh, well, you know, the university would just use should just use its endowment to pay itself to do the research the government requested. That doesn't make sense.
Then you should not get federal funding. Harvard is in direct violation of the United States Supreme Court fair.
True, and if Harvard pays the money, they get to dictate the research, and they have ownership over the results of it. True.
Admissions case, which says you cannot discriminate people based on the color of their skin. Go ahead.
But isn't the whole point of it, you can't use endowments like that. The point of
they can.
The point of an endowment is to manage a fund through perpetuity. Cambridge has an endowment, and that endowment allows professorships to be funded to allow for research into sciences. That's the whole point of an endowment.
You just said it funds research into sciences.
Yeah, but it funds that by not paying out of the endowment. The bigger the endowment becomes, the more money it generates. And then it uses that money to fund more things. Like, if it's generating interest, that's what they use to fund the things.
That's what they should do with their monstrosity of an endowment.
Yeah, but the endowment is...
The interest alone on their endowment could fund the entire research and development budget of most Ivy League schools. They have a $50 billion endowment. Even like a...
Yeah, but they're using it to, hire and maintain professors and staff and facilities. Like, they're using it already. It's not just sitting there.
Dunk money manager in America can earn a 7 to 10% investment in the markets the last couple of years. That's $5 billion of returns that endowment could then reinvest in whatever they want. Instead, Harvard
they already do that.
Has become a hedge fund with a radical school attached. And I think that's very wrong for U.S. taxpayers to continue to subsidize.
But
it's not subsidizing it. We're paying for services.
Not just Harvard. You've called on colleges being a scam. You've constantly attacked higher education institutes. You've attacked liberal arts as a scam. For example, a lot of conservatives, Peter Thiel studied philosophy at Stanford. Ronald Reagan studied sociology. A lot of them did study liberal arts, and you keep undermining these august institutions, which have provided a lot for society.
Also, props to this guy for using the word August. I always love when people throw that in there.
Society's backbones have been universities and higher learning institutes. and yet you keep attacking them.
Well, they used to be largely.
You know, this is like watching a conservative Michael Scott try to bumble through completely unprepared for like a debate scenario. You know, he's just conservative Michael Scotting his way through this. You know, he's I declare bankruptcy. I don't know if The Office is probably too old of a reference point for many of you. This is just like when the Skibbity Toilet Armies turned the tide in episode 59 of the Skibbity Toilet series. There we go. Nailed it.
But again, I don't want to speak too much about this country, but in America, they don't represent fundamental American values. You know, Peter Thiel, after he graduated Stanford, wrote an entire book criticizing college and then paying.
Did you know that Peter Thiel is a moron? Did you know Peter Thiel literally thinks that like he can just like create his own little fascist state in Greenland? That like did you know that? That's like his entire life goal at this point. Like I don't think he's that bright. Let me put it that way.
For a guy who rails against socialism all the time, Charlie Kirk sure is a fan of being publicly owned. BWA.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Yup. Boom. We got him.
People not to go to college. So Peter Thiel, who spoke at this very school, and you guys had a great conversation with him. You know that he believes college is such a scam. He would pay.
You guys are saying The Office is like 12 years old, right? Am I wrong? When was the last episode of The Office? Just real quick. The Office. 9 seasons. So 2014. It's 11 years old.
People $100,000 a year for 20 years straight not to go to college. So not exactly a good argument in your favor. Peter Thiel, who got a philosophy degree, made billions of dollars.
Sorry. The series finale of The Office is 11 years old. The Office itself started in the United States 15 years ago, if I'm being correct. 15? No, that can't possibly be right. Started in 2009. Wait a minute. Right? No. 16 years old. Whatever. I can't math.
And has now forked over tens of millions of dollars for people.
Wait, it started in 2005. It's 20 years old. Damn, I misread when it started. I thought that 9 was a 5. I need glasses.
Not to go to U.S. universities and colleges.
Yeah, but it's not just Peter Thiel.
I know, but you mentioned him. I didn't. But to complete the point is that
Thomas went to did liberal arts.
Look, in America, there are far too many people going to college. We need people to become welders, electricians, people that work with their hands. There is a major trade deficit problem in the United States. We have 11 million well-paying jobs that we cannot find enough labor for, and instead we have a lot of people going to university to go study North African lesbian poetry. It might sound good, but it doesn't necessarily, A, either development, the content, the character, or the development of the soul, and B, it does not necessarily also give you the skills necessary. Some college is good for you. I'm a big proponent of Hillsdale College.
Guys, can you please be quiet?
I believe Hillsdale College is America's greatest college, and I'm a big proponent of that.
Really? Really? You think Hillsdale College is one of America's greatest educational institutions? On what grounds? What achievements? Is this because you're like financially involved with the college? Just real quick, I'm gonna Google Hillsdale College, Charlie Kirk. Let's see. Oh, he speaks a lot at Hillsdale College. That's wild. He frequently I'm sorry, here's a quote from him from 2 years ago.
Falling, the citizen is rising, and Charlie Kirk is leading the way.
Come back, email us freedom@charliekirk.com. What do we have, guys? I think Hillsdale College, the wonderful Hillsdale College. I think so highly of them. They're wonderful. Look, as students start going back to school, do you think they'll be learning about foundational principles? They'll probably be learning about trans surgeries. There is no truth.
I mean, if they're going to like a surgical school, they're going to learn about trans surgeries. Sure. Yeah.
It is depressing what most kids learn when they go to college. I just hope you as parents are prepared, and grandparents, when you send that kid off to college, you may never see them again. You have been warned. Unless you send them to Hillsdale College, then you'll see a better version of your kid or grandkid. One that is...
So, just to be clear, in Charlie Kirk's world, if you send your kid off to college, it's basically a coin flip whether or not they come back to you alive or in a body bag. Like, heads, you come back to me, son. Tails, I never see you again. My daughter. Like what? A single tear rolls down his coal mining cheek.
Wise. Understands wonder, goodness, beauty, virtue. They don't teach any of that stuff at most campuses. Just look at Arizona State University. Hillsdale College is America's greatest college. And I want to
Jesus Christ, he's still talking about it.
Tell you that Hillsdale College is extending its teaching to K through 12 students and lifelong learners. I am currently finishing my in-depth study of the Old Testament, and then I'm going to get right back into these online courses. It's amazing. Hillsdale College, you could check.
Oh, so I guess Charlie Kirk has been going to college. He suddenly found the value of higher education.
Check out in Primus. I got to tell you, I've got to know Larry Arnn really well.
I don't care who that is.
He's become a mentor. He's become a friend. I learned so much from him. Hillsdale is this beacon. There's so much negativity in the country. You can benefit from Hillsdale for free.
There's so much negativity in this country, and trans people should be eliminated. Like, you can't square these ideas.
Returning to the Bay Area, Thiel capitalized on the dot-com boom. With financial support from friends and family, he raised $1 million toward the establishment of Thiel Capital Management.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. First of all, Paladin, thank you for the $10 dono. But are you trying to tell me that suddenly all of us are looking down on a hardworking, intelligent, shrewd businessman who worked his way up from nothing just because he got a small loan of $1 million? Just a small $1 million loan. Anyone could do it. Anyone can make the American dream work when they've got a lot of fascism, a little gumption, and a small loan of $1 million. Anyone can make it here in America. Why, I heard of someone who started selling dirt pies from a wooden stand. And you want to know something? That business never took off because they forgot the most important part. A small loan of $1 million. That's the best part of the American dream. Obviously, none of us could have done what Peter Thiel did with a small loan of $1 million. It's just, it's totally impossible for us. We're just not smart enough, you see, to make that additional step of getting that small loan of $1 million.
But I would ask a question. In your own words, what do you believe the purpose of college is?
It's critical engagement. But coming back to your point on lesbian poetry or whatever.
Can we just take a moment to be like, I love how this guy in particular just casually bats aside Charlie's attempt to deflect the conversation, just like it's critical engagement. But can we go back to your idea that it's totally pointless to study art and philosophy? Like what?
North African lesbian poetry.
North African lesbian poetry. So in the morning
we're getting to a point. I have a lot to say.
Actually had a lecture on development policy, and one of the key authors on sort of development economics is Nussbaum, who talks about how liberal arts sort of engages you critically. And one could argue, even North African lesbian poetry, I don't think that's a degree. I think that's just a module within a degree.
This guy's straight up being I've evaluated your proposal of a degree, and I think you'd actually have multiple other categories of study outside of that. I don't think it would be a degree in and of itself. I'm guessing that this guy is getting some kind of degree in in education. Just I've actually been getting my degree in how to make a syllabus most effectively for my students.
Maybe.
Yeah. that makes
The
you
fact you don't
engage.
know shows how rotten to the core universities have become.
You're taking one example and telling conservatives and hordes of young people that college is a scam. College isn't a scam. I mean, I took my mum down to a pub just down the road where Watson and Crick announced DNA. College.
Guys, can we? Okay, wait 1 second.
If college.
That's badass. That's a good place to take your mom. Like that'd be cool. You know, like that. Good idea.
Is a scam, then DNA wouldn't have been discovered. With cancer research.
Yes, hold on a second. Yes, you're right. At this specific university, you guys split the atom. You had Sir Isaac Newton. You had some of the greatest minds of the West. I don't know about what's happening here, and I'm not going to criticize it. But at most colleges in the West, they've gone away from.
Yeah. I'm not talking about here. I'm talking about like some imagined college. You know, if you squint your mind a little bit, you can imagine a college where they teach things that only the things you don't like. You know, if you really work hard at it, you can in fact imagine a colossal university where they only teach things you don't like. Which, you know, I'm guessing in the 90s for Charlie Kirk that included, you know, Harry Potter, obviously because of the witchcraft. Oddly enough, some certain things have occurred since then, and now Charlie Kirk is very much in favor of those books for reasons unknown. Who can say? Maybe the transphobia has since outweighed the use of witchcraft.
Places of inquiry and appreciation of what is good and what is beautiful, and into this incessant oppression Olympics of trying to deconstruct the core canon that is our birth certificate. I don't know if that's happening here. It's certainly
that's not.
Can we like just keep in mind what he's saying here? To deconstruct the core canon of our society.
the core canon that is our birth certificate.
Sorry, our birth certificate. His idea here, and it is word salad, true, Harold. But to parse the word salad just a little bit, he's basically saying that like the historical works of like, you know, mostly white dead guys is our birthright as, you know, people who exist in the West. You know, like we just all own it because we're in the West.
Not only is Charlie Kirk a two-faced rat, but both faces are too small for his head.
And they're both very racist.
I don't know if that's happening here. It's certainly.
That's not true, though.
In America, it is objectively true, okay?
That isn't true.
Again, first of all, they removed Western civilization as a core course in Stanford in the 1990s. They tried to bring it back with petitions.
Wait, yeah, they removed Western civilization as a core course because people just started learning about all civilizations instead of just Western ones, because we got more information from all of the efforts researching various civilizations around the globe. Like, the reason they removed Western civilization is because our basis of knowledge got exponentially larger. Like, that's why we changed that. Because suddenly we had like this intersection of worldwide ideas and knowledge, and it turns out that a lot of cool things were happening elsewhere in the planet. You know, it turns out other people besides Western civilization can do cool things. We can actually. It's possible.
And the university said, no, teaching Western civilization is racist. Shakespeare is not taught at major. Let me finish. Shakespeare is not taught at major universities across America.
That is absolute. Okay. English major here. Hello. Hi. I spent 3 years getting a bachelor's degree in English literature, and I can tell you, I took like literally like almost 3 years, like a year and a half worth of classes on Shakespeare. I wrote so many papers on Shakespeare, and I was in college like 12 years ago. So like, this isn't crazy. It wasn't a long time ago. Like, they didn't suddenly decide Shakespeare was racist. What they did was what English majors have been doing for the past century, which is just apply critical reading and analysis to different historical texts. And yeah, through some of those lenses, like different colonial lenses, different economic lenses, different racial lenses, you can arrive at different readings of texts, but that doesn't mean you stop studying the texts. What we're talking about when we're talking about like, oh, we stopped teaching Western civilization or whatever, is that we just broaden the amount of stuff that we teach about, but you can still take a class on like medieval European military history. And I know that because I did. I took that class. It was very good. And like, you can also take so many classes on Shakespeare. I took like 3 or 4. I don't remember how many. So like, again, this idea that like, oh, they stopped teaching Western civilization. Oh, no, they didn't. They just got more specific on different parts of Western civilization, and the base of knowledge got bigger. Simple as. English lit here. You literally could not get an English lit major at Duke without taking Shakespeare. Yeah. I don't think Shakespeare was required for me, but like I like Shakespeare. So like I studied some of it. I will say though, Merry Wives of Windsor sucks butt.
Because it's deemed as racist. I talked to some students earlier in the English department, and they said, hey, I'm studying Shakespeare. I said, that's refreshing, because in a lot of U.S. schools, they don't teach Shakespeare because he's called racist. You would be surprised at how...
Imagine, like Charlie is just like, colleges are simultaneously so powerful that they can dictate, like, societal knowledge, right? And at the same time, they're completely and utterly cowed if something is just called racist. Like, Charlie would know maybe if he had gone to more college, but actually, like, people on college campuses are really interested in, like, investigating racism, investigating like different racial dynamics and characteristics, and like how that manifests in like literature and media and stuff. That's actually like a huge thing and component of like the critical thinking skills that they teach at the university level. And it's like really, really interesting. It's really, really fun to like learn how to appreciate the things you may have already known and loved through a different lens and in a new light, to get more stuff out of the things that you are consuming and experiencing that are in the world of art. You know, that makes things way more interesting, actually.
How wretched to the core some of these colleges have become in America.
If you look at the Global Innovation Index, America, which is predominantly a lot of their majors are in humanities and liberal arts, they're number 2 on the Global Innovation Index. China is somewhere near 13. If you look at every metric, Fortune 1000 CEOs, 40...
So someone not from the US, what is Western civilization even supposed to be? Excellent question, Sabcat, and it's left deliberately vague on purpose. Like it's left deliberately vague, right? Because when Charlie is saying Western civilization, he's making this appeal to an idea of like a unified cultural bloc that a lot of white supremacists and like fascists believe exists between like, you know, European, you know, most European nations and America and like South Africa and Australia and like, you know, Canada. And really all it is whiteness. It like that is really what it boils down to for them. Like it's just their way of saying whiteness as opposed to like actual specifics. And they'll make like appeals to like, oh, well, we mean English common law, or we mean Judeo-Christian values that shaped all of the political apparatuses in these places. You know, that's what we mean, except that like Judeo-Christian values have shaped a lot of values in a lot of other places that they conveniently leave off of Western civilization, you know? So it's just kind of it's white nationalist propaganda.
50% did humanities and liberal arts. There is a value in liberal arts, yet you're criticizing it.
And I'm going to keep on criticizing it. Also, the vast majority of liberal arts graduates do not respect freedom of speech. That is an empirical poll. They increasingly do not have reverence or gratitude for the United States of America. They don't care about the core values of the U.S. Constitution. If you want to go to college, that's fine. But
if you have a like say an English major, you just don't care about the Constitution, apparently. That's his argument is like, yes, you got a degree in not STEM. Well, you just hate the Constitution. It's insane bullshit. Like, I hope you guys realize he's just crazy here, you know?
In our country, 40% of kids that enter college do not graduate. The kids that do graduate, half of them end up getting jobs that do not require any sort of college degree. There are all these made-up degrees. In America, I know it's different than the experience you might be having here. Your tutoring system here is objectively great. I'm glad you guys have it. The class sizes in America are 400 to 500 students, sometimes per introductory course, to go hundreds of...
Excellent comment, Shoot Bang. To be honest, as a Jewish guy, I'm tired of hearing about Judeo-Christian values when they are just evangelical Christian values and generally have no regard for Jews or our beliefs. It's dishonest BS hiding behind us. Absolutely. 10,000%. And there are a number of people who go along with it on like the Jewish end of things, like Dennis Prager or Ben Shapiro, but like there's a reason why like Ben Shapiro's co-worker Candace Owens left the Daily Wire to begin, Nazi posting about Jewish conspiracies. Like it's because like this concept of Judeo-Christian values is not nearly as unified when it actually comes down to brass tacks. Like it is kind of a unification around like this white nationalist idea, and then it breaks down at some point because the center cannot hold.
Of thousands of dollars into debt, study things that don't matter to find jobs that do not exist. And so let me just make one final point, is that, of course, some people should be going to college, but generally in the United States of America, it has become a racket of debt, it has become a burden, and a place where we're actually not putting our best and brightest into the job field itself to be equipped for the jobs of the future. Instead, we have a lot of baristas at Starbucks with philosophy degrees.
You also mentioned indoctrination. As per the Oxford Dictionary's definition of indoctrination, it means that you take a belief and you can't critically observe that belief. Turning Point USA has over 30,000 chapters, 3,000 chapters across US universities. So are you arguing that students, including conservatives, lack the critical thinking skills to sort of decide political ideologies, political beliefs, that they're so dumbfounded that they can't decide for themselves what's right and what's wrong, and that your whole premise is on the fact that students like us, we lack critical thought in deciding what is taught in schools?
Again, I'm not using Cambridge as the school that I think of, but in America, we have...
Well, I mean, not this school, but like, again, imagine a university that only teaches things that you hate. Obviously, in that hypothetical school, no one would have critical thinking because it's they teach everything you hate. So, yeah, but like, imagine you're, an American school that sucks.
Millions of people that go to these massive state schools that have humanities departments that are not reading the great books, that do not have a tutoring system, that are unfortunately laced with the most anti-Western thought imaginable. I don't really quite following what one thing has to do with the other, why 3,000 chapters has something to do with your indictment. Maybe you can clarify, but I think we're out of time.
You can clarify, but then we'll move on.
In general, colleges should be a place that lift you up to what is good, true, and beautiful, to study the great things that have been, to develop your...
By the way, if you're wondering why is he throwing beautiful in there, it's because it's part of like the fascism. It's part of his fascistic belief. Like a recurrent part and component of fascism is this kind of dulling of or dumbing down of what it means to be beautiful. Because like I think generally speaking, when people call something beautiful, it's not necessarily just in an aesthetic sense, but in like an intellectual sense, in like, the idea that like, oh, well, there are a lot of beautiful ideas, a lot of beautiful things, a lot of beautiful stuff. But with the fascist idea of beauty is just skin deep. It is the end and in of itself. Like they are not concerned with the substance, but merely the veneer. And it's part of why it leads to kind of like these very hollow attempts to ape cultural touchstones from other civilizations. It's what leads to kind of like this mythologizing in Nazi Germany of like the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryan, like with like the, kind of like homoerotic undertones to him, chopping wood. That's it. That's the beauty they're going for. And it's like, yes, beauty speaks truth. And so our ads will show the blonde-haired, blue-eyed man that everyone should aspire to be. And it's just like, this is ultimately hollow. You're just trying to recruit people into a death cult. You exist to be consumed. That blonde-haired Aryan army got crushed by the multiracial army. I mean, it wasn't even just the reason I use the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryan archetype is just because that was a myth. That wasn't real. Hitler himself wasn't an Aryan. They didn't live up to these ideas. They just, created a beautiful ideal as propaganda. It had no substance. It had no reality to it. They just used it to shape their political moment. That's it. What's the difference between liberalism and neoliberalism? Liberalism is the idea that capitalism can be contained by democratic reform. And neoliberalism is the idea that you should actually not contain capitalism with reforms. And it's not good, actually. Those are both bad. And I'm very simple explanation.
Soul and develop your character. Character in Greek literally means tattoo, to etched within you. Far too often colleges create ungrateful, pessimistic, and nihilistic revolutionaries that want to tear down what was before and instead have no alternative to build the future, and the West is suffering because of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What a fucking freak, man. Liberalism is good. I think that the fact that the last 100 years has shown the failure of liberalism, I've made this argument before, and I don't want to get sidetracked in this, but one of the key components of liberalism is the idea that you can democratically contain capitalism, except that capitalism has an inherent built-in incentive to subvert that containment, to buy political favor, increase and consolidate its political power, and ultimately destroy and subsume liberalism. That's the entire game of liberalism for a capitalist. And it's because if they're able to do that, they can make way more money. Yes, liberalism only stopped working when it turned into neoliberalism. Yes, that's because the neoliberal project was a deliberate effort funded by corporate billionaires to subvert the political restrictions on capital. It's directly derived from that. Capitalism can be contained by reform. FDR did it. I think you need to look around the world and look at the trend of privatization across societies, across civilizations, and I think you need to really reevaluate that idea. The idea that the issue is you can contain capitalism. That is possible. My argument is that I don't think that's a very good system if every, 100 years you need to fight against the fascists that seem to crawl out of the woodwork to try and tear down the rest or the remnants of your liberal order. I don't think that's a good system. I think that, instead we could just not have capitalism and have something better. Last question. If neoliberalism involves deregulation, then how is neoliberalism different than anarcho-capitalism? Neoliberalism still believes in the idea of a state, whereas anarcho-capitalism, by and large, doesn't. Though you can find some minarchists who believe in some kind of state, but...
I disagree, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wait, how though? How can you contain it? Again, you can reinstate FDR-like reforms, but understand that the reason FDR even existed in the first place was because there was a prominent socialist movement in America, and he essentially compromised between the robber barons and the socialist movement that was threatening to the capitalistic power in the United States. Right? The workers' rights movement presented a threat to capital. And so the compromise that was made, we know as the New Deal. And it was really good for a bit until, again, capital started deregulating things. Like, the people in the United States didn't just start deregulating because deregulating capital because, like, oh, they all thought it was a good idea suddenly. No, they started undoing it because capitalists bought political favors via lobbying. And that was a process that started like immediately as soon as the New Deal passed. Understand, and I've been doing some research on this, but like as soon as the New Deal passed, guys, like these rich fucks, these robber barons, these descendants of wealth, these American aristocrats started basically coming up with their plans to undo the New Deal. The reason we are currently today debating like defunding Medicaid to the point of $880 billion, that's a culmination of an effort that has been underway in America for like the last 100 years. Understand, these people are out to get all the money, and they're not going to stop because the system of capital demands that they not stop. Hey, if you liked the video, like, comment, and subscribe, because I need to live, and that helps me to live. Please help me live.
Riverboat Jack is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.